Live Target Score Vancouver podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Not only another episode, but the first time we've gone live for a post-game show, and it just happened to work out that Kyle Julius is available 15 hours ahead of us. So timing worked out. Big win over Saskatoon, and why not do a little bit of a breakdown and a post-game wrap and interview and all that stuff with GM still of the Vancouver Bandits, Kyle Julius. At 92-85, the Vancouver Bandits over the Saskatoon Mamba, and a very big win. We'll get into all that stuff later with KJ. But, yeah, very big win after a 2-game slide. So let's welcome in Kyle Julius now to the Target Score Vancouver podcast. There he is. Thank you for doing this, my man.
What's up, guys?
We really appreciate it. Before we get into breaking down the game and, sort of what you saw and how you kind of operate from behind the scenes. But, what a crazy couple of weeks it's been for everybody in the organization, all the way down to the fans. So we saw your video come out. Congratulations, by the way, on an amazing opportunity. But maybe we'll give you the floor for a couple of minutes to just sort of, get some stuff off your chest and thank the fans one more time.
Yeah, no, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. I feel for the players. I spent a lot of time and energy recruiting those guys, building relationships with them. And, they came to play, in my system for me and, as part of the organization. And I don't think anybody expected me to leave halfway through the season. It's just one of those things. There was just a ton outside of our control. The incident with the league kind of, sparked everything. That's for another show or another conversation. But our fans have been tremendous. I've really built strong connections in the community with people, our players, the coaching staff, especially, Dylan is like a brother to me. And, just the whole process has been tough. It's been really hard on my family and, a tough decision to make, but one that players make all the time. And every once in a while you see coaches having to make these. And yeah, it's just made for a really tough, 2 weeks for our team, but got to give Rands and the group and the players themselves a ton of credit. Man, it's been insane all the way to even just before this game. We just found out that, Zach Copeland can't play because of his contract in Europe. They just, that team, it's not abnormal. They just don't want him to play, right? He signed and, he wasn't totally aware of it. And so, Zach's a guy that we had a lot of players slotted in this summer to play big minutes and contribute and be a huge piece. And for all kinds of ulterior, motives and reasons, it hasn't worked out. Zach's another example. So, I give everybody in the organization, man, a ton of credit. We keep finding ways to win. We're missing big pieces, small pieces, middle pieces, missing your coach, and we're out on the road grinding through wins. And, the guys just found out about Zach, I don't know, not even an hour before tip off. Yeah, it's tough. The whole thing's been tough, but, we have a culture and we don't panic and we fight. And a lot of our players and coaches and support staff and front office embody that culture. And it showed tonight. It really showed tonight.
Breaking news here on Target Score Vancouver podcast.
I don't know if I'm allowed to even tell you guys, but it is what it is. You're not going to see him play, and that's the reason. It's part of this business, and the CEBL is a summer league, right? It's a supplement to these players. It's not their main job. It's not their main, organization to work for. Although we in Vancouver have created, something special. The reality is these guys, they have real jobs and real leagues in other places, and it will always take precedent over the CEBL. You see it on a lot of teams, and I think we've just done a good job over the summers of kind of keeping continuity, at least during the season for the most part. But even last year, we got hammered where we were really good with Corey Davis at the point, and then we lose Corey randomly to the same thing, had to go early to his team, and they wanted him there early, and now you're a different team, and you're kind of playing without a point guard for the last 5 games of the regular season. And even last year, we found a way to win throughout that whole thing, and we even won that last game. We won that last game 3 different times. Somebody in the league and at TSN will tell you different, but we won that game as well. And so I'm proud of our organization, and this last 2 weeks has been crazy. And this game tonight, I think, is a reflection of the culture that we've built for sure.
And Kyle, it sounds like potentially, especially that piece about Zach, the continuity of your role as GM may be more important now than ever before. Obviously,
man.
you got to fill. Yeah. So maybe educate the fans on how you stay connected to this group. You always have. You've done it from afar. This time's different, but there's still, call it, this team's 10-6, and now you have another 8 games to end this season. You still have transactions left to use. You have a couple guys at Summer League. So what does the going forward process look like as GM?
Yeah, one of the key pillars in our culture is, adapt and overcome, right? You have to, if you're working in the CEBL, I tell people all the time, you're not, if a coach tells you he's coaching in the CEBL, he's lying, right? What we do is far different than coaching. It's the facilitation of players coming and going and knowing who and why and how to, tweak the roster and when and where to tweak it, and how having relationships with people around the world and agents around the world that you can call right away when you need a guy. And we've got a list that, we're gonna work through now. The Zach thing was really unexpected, and we've got some great players that they'll play, they'll come, but at the same time, I think you saw tonight something special. John Knight, I brought John Knight in at the start of the summer for this exact reason. We had great conversation. I said, John, you might not play, but because you're so versatile, you might not play a lot, but because you're so versatile, I call John diehard, right? Like different players come and go, and John just stays. He's on that roster every night, every game, because literally can play 1 through 4, can guard 5s. He's very smart. He's a great kid. He's got a great positive attitude, and it showed tonight. We played him big minutes, and he helped win a game. I thought for the most part, him and Tevin Brown were the best players on the floor for the Bandits. And so to answer your question, Andrew, I am as connected as I've ever been. I'm out here in Hong Kong, and I'm on the phone 10, 12 hours with coaches, with players, with agents, with Dylan, just making sure that I can, contribute and do my part. Even though I'm not there, I watch every possession. I watch every possession of practice, and I just care so much about all these guys and the organization itself. And I genuinely feel terrible that I'm not there to battle with them. And so I'm just doing everything I can. And we'll make any adjustment roster-wise, tactically, strategically, emotionally, that we have to right now.
Kyle, I mentioned it off the top. Like, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. You said it too. I had a great conversation with Rands a couple of days ago before we played Calgary, and he just said, "Look, like, we're all experiencing it the same way. It's all new for all of us. It's all weird for all of us. But the only way to get through this is to decide to do your job at a high level and everybody buy in. And so we're kind of doing it by committee." Coach Matt sort of handling offensive coordinator role, as Rand said, and then Coach Louis is sort of overseeing D because he watches a ton of video, and Rand is kind of watching it all. I guess my question to you is, why is Rand's ready for this, head coaching position?
I think Rand's has been like an integral part of the fabric of our culture, like first and foremost. He's been right there through the good, bad, and ugly for the last couple of years. And he's been in that first chair beside me, and I hired him, to be that guy. And so I think he's naturally ready, because of that, first of all. Second of all, he's got the demeanor. He's intelligent. He doesn't get too high or too low. I'd say he's probably a little more, even keeled than I am. And I think, that in situations like this where you got new players coming and going, and I think that's a very important quality. And then when you hear Rams talk about just doing your job at a high level, that's Bandits culture, right? Like, that's Bandits speak. It's one thing we talk about. Toughness is doing things you don't want to do at a high level. And when you have toughness, then you eventually get togetherness. You can't have togetherness before toughness. It just doesn't happen. And we call that dependability, right? So when guys are tough and doing things maybe they don't want to do, like a John Knight, how many games has he not checked in? How many games has he only played 3 minutes? How many practices has he come to knowing that he might not play the next game, right? That's toughness. And then all of a sudden now you're in big trouble on the road. Like you said earlier, Chris, 2 in a row, maybe 3 in a row now, these road trips for nobody has to travel like the Bandits, right? Like, nobody has to fly and log the kilometers that we do. And so now you get on these tough trips, these 7-night trips, and it's a grind and it's tough. And so to get that first win, you have John, John's dependable. So Rams is dependable. He's tough. And it's a pillar to our culture, is the dependability that leads to toughness, and the toughness leads to togetherness. And that's what Rams has. He embodies that, right? And then I also think that, tactically, the time and energy that I've spent with Louis and Matt, kind of mentoring them, they're young coaches. Tactically, strategically, I have a very kind of specific system, both sides of the ball, that's kind of been catered, and we've kind of catered it to the CEBL. They're like well versed. So I think, for sure that group, the three of them, they're well connected. And then we have tremendous support coaches, tremendous support staff from our athletic therapy, strength and conditioning guys like Kyle Brown and Steven and Coach Tony, our senior advisor, our other volunteer coaches. I just think we've got a good group that can withstand this and deal with the highs and lows. I don't think they're going to win every game moving forward, but you don't have to in this league. You have to peak at the right time. You've got to be sharp, and you've got to attack the matchups when they present themselves. And I think we'll be ready for that. We'll make some more adjustments here as an organization, and I think we'll be ready for a serious playoff run like we always have.
Kyle, you mentioned peaking at the right time. Obviously, we know Mitch is supposed to come back sometime potentially in late July, whenever that ends up being. Obviously, Zach not going to be a piece, and you talk about there's the opportunity to bring in new guys, but you also want to see some continuity and this team coming together. Obviously, Shamar, fresh piece, Tevin Brown, Lloyd Pand, you can tell they're getting it together, tonight being the best shooting night of Tevin Brown as a Bandit so far. So maybe talk about what that growth curve maybe looks like, and maybe what Mitch might bring when he comes back.
Yeah, you don't want to panic, right? And even though you're at the end, and it might even be time to make some aggressive adjustments or panic a bit. I think that's what rookie or bad organizations do, right? Rookie coaches do. We've been in this fight for a while. It's always been about player development for us. And so we don't just change players out just to change them out. In fact, our kind of like the cool thing about our culture has been we've had more players quit than we've ever cut. Guys that just can't handle it and ask to get out because they don't want to fight for their minutes, or they don't want to do a Kyle Julius practice, or whatever the case may be. We've had a lot of that, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things in coaching, is just guys coming and saying, hey, I don't want this smoke anymore. Or, it's too much accountability, or there's too much this, too much film, too much weights, too much. I'm good. We like that. And so we've got a group of guys now that want to be here, that are here. They're here to fight. And we'll make some poignant, some precise adjustments moving forward. But you got Mitch Creek on your team. You got a Jarkel Joyner. You got a Tyrese Samuel. You got a workhorse like Dom and these other guys. Lloyd Pandy, as good as a defender as we've ever had. And, Dwayne Notice can do things. And you got Shamar can have a big night. We just got to kind of find the rhythm, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, big win for the Bandits tonight after a 2-game slide over the Saskatoon Mamba. You mentioned Mitch Creek there. I know Mitch did a lot of, player coaching, for lack of a better term, even when you were around. I imagine he'll maybe do a little bit more of that, and sort of kind of be, right on Rands' hip. Do you sort of see Mitch doing that when he gets back?
Yeah, I think to be honest, well, first of all, it's a testament to Mitch, and it's a luxury to have a guy like him. But I think that's really where the elite coaching staffs around the world have kind of gained ground on the competition in the last, I'd say, five years, is really allowing the input from the players, really encouraging input from players, allowing the players to lead. I talk about that all the time, like that earlier, our toughness, and part of building toughness is the dependability. And I say you got to lead yourself first. Like, you can't come in a locker room and tell people what to do if you're not the first guy to practice and the last guy to lead. You just can't, right? You can't tell guys how to play if you're not first to the floor on a loose ball and you're not willing to lay your body on the line, especially in our culture. I don't let those guys talk. Even we don't listen to those guys. We've had those guys. We had a bunch of those guys in 2023, and none of them came back. Mitch is a guy who talks and walks it, right? And we've got a couple of those guys in the locker room right now, and it's important, so yeah, you want Mitch talking. You want a guy like Mitch leading the group. I think I've seen quite a bit of it out of Tevin Brown, and it makes sense. He's got the kind of resume and abilities to back that up. He's in the gym at night. I see him there early. Before I came to Asia here, he was early and late. And same thing with a guy like Lloyd Pandy. He's more lead by example. But yeah, you want your team to lead itself first more than anything. And I think that's where our culture and the Bandits we've had fun building these teams because we've had a lot of those guys in the last couple of years.
And Kyle, when you talk about this game and obviously some of those returning pieces, I don't want to get too into the game too quickly, but you talk about some of those other pieces that fans obviously had a chance to get to know, but Shamar Gibbons, great game tonight. And then you talk about Dom Perlin as well. You talk about the complementary cast coming together. Who are some of those pieces, the secondary unit that you're going to look to, obviously with the absence of a Zach potentially around?
Yeah, I mean, you saw some interesting stuff tonight. We talked about it as a staff, don't sub. I think a lot of people, teams in this league, I mean, I've never, ever been like this, but a lot of the teams in the league have subbed kind of positionally, right? So the PG for the PG and the 2 for the 2 and the 3 for the 3. And we're not built like that right now. And I've never really built the team that way. We like, if you ask Dwayne Notice, I've subbed Dwayne Notice in a game at the 2. And 2 minutes later, I made another sub and say, Dwayne, you're the 4 now. And then a couple minutes later, okay, Dwayne, hey, play these next 2 positions at the 1. And so what that means is that we've got a group of guys that can play multiple positions and want to play multiple positions. And you don't have to sub positionally. You can sub the next best guy. And I thought Rands did a really good job of that tonight. And we've always prided ourselves on that. So, he played you saw some insane lineups that on paper you'd never think you'd see, but it's quite calculated, right? And so you saw the 2 bigs together in different periods of time. And then you saw Tyrese out and Dom stayed. You saw Jarkel and Shamar together. Most coaches wouldn't play those 2 guys together. They're point guards, right? They're 2 point guards. But Jarkel's capable of buckets and big nights and ripping off 7 straight points, and Shamar's obviously can get into the teeth of the defense and get into the seams and create. And so now you're playing both of them together. It's not something the other team probably scouted for and anticipated. Then you saw John out there with Dom and Tyrese at the wing. Then you saw John in the game-winning play. He brought the ball up the court. He played the 1. If you want to get specific. And then you saw Lloyd Pandy at the 4 and the 3. So I think we just have to play the best 5 guys at the time. And to the naked eye, it might not have a lot of rhyme or reason, but I think that's what makes our team good, and that's what makes. That's where I like to contribute to the coaching staff. Is I felt like we've done a good job of that over the last couple of years, as we've kind of just played. We played big, we played small. I remember we won a game a couple of years ago in Scarborough, and we played Mitch at the 5 the whole 4th quarter. We were down 10 going into the 4th, and that was the year we played. Nick Ward, Coor together, Nick Ward, Mitch together. Those lineups, and we won that game. And the coach told me after, man, never thought you guys go small because you played big all year. And I never even thought of it. Our bigs weren't playing well. So we moved Mitch, to the 5 kind of thing, right? And then last year we were down big in Brampton before Target, and we played Coor and James Carnick together, 2 5s together, something we hadn't done, but they'd been playing really well, and we won that game. So I think Rands has been there for all that. Rands has processed that, digested that. He's comfortable with that. I thought tonight was a really good job of playing the best 5 guys. And what I mean by the best, the guys that were just having good nights and playing hard and guarding. And I thought it paid off.
Before we get into the win over Saskatoon tonight, by the way, if you're just joining us, Bandits with a big win over Saskatoon Mamba. They're playing, we're back as a bit of a home and home with a game in between against Calgary Surge. And I know that one didn't feel good on home floor on Sunday. What did you see? I mean, I'm assuming you were watching from afar. What's the first thing, sort of you saw as a concern with that game?
Yeah, we just were, the guys were just, you could just tell, these guys aren't perfect, right? They're human beings. You could just tell that the change and stuff had gotten to them. We were so far off of our regular pace and tempo. The body language coming in and out of timeouts was an issue. Yeah, they were cooked. I saw it right from the start of that game. And it was, and if you think about it, even with the Edmonton game was similar. And we still had a chance to win both. As poorly as we played, still had a chance to win both. And so, yeah, I talked to a lot of the players about those details, and I know the coaches did, and we had some long coaches meetings, and the coaches still are trying to find their groove, like who's really doing a lot of what during a game is tough, right? And because these coaches care, and so I think sometimes maybe one or two of them might be doing a little bit too much during the game because they want to win so badly, they want to help Rand so badly. So it's like figuring out that too has been part of it. But yeah, that was a big step forward tonight. They definitely got outplayed and outworked the last two games at home, which is unfortunate, but I just think it's a byproduct of all the change, to be honest.
And looking at tonight, Kyle, obviously Rand starts his Bandits tenor 2-0, and then fans see, okay, 2-2, and you get a big win tonight. But what maybe get lost in there is, the offense hasn't been clicking, but the defense and the points allowed has actually been slowly trending down the past couple of games. So obviously, despite the transition, you're overseas. Do you feel like this team is starting to find its defensive identity, and do we maybe see a little bit of that tonight?
Yeah, I think, the day I left, Lloyd Pandy arrived, right? And we signed Lloyd as the main stopper, a big defensive pillar, a leader defensively. I never had him, for those first, whatever it was, 8 or 9 games that I was there. And so I think I was telling the coaches that Lloyd's defense and the way he plays was got to be worth 5 to 8 points, defensive scoring wise. And I think it's proven true. And I just think they were just more dialed in tonight on, the actual kind of responsibilities and assignments. And I think it showed. And yeah, we've definitely been better overall defensively because with the arrival of Lloyd, I got to be honest, I think that's a big thing. And, Jalen House leaving was tough on everybody too. Like we haven't talked about that. The guy was leading the league in points and assists. And, that was unfortunate for us at the same time. But I think he struggled defensively, for sure. I don't think that was a surprise. So, addition by subtraction there. And then you also add Lloyd. And I think, the defense is better. It's definitely better.
Yeah, I've been pretty candid about how I felt, Jalen maybe not fitting in. We don't have to get into that conversation, but I just felt like he just didn't really fit the culture. Saw a lot of bad body language, saw a lot of pouting. I know I heard, from my perspective, trying to listen in on your timeouts, like, I could hear some disagreements between you and him, and it is what it is. And it's unfortunate, but it almost feels like they're better off, in a way. Would you agree? I'm not trying to make
that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. You see that on teams all the time with, high usage players. I wouldn't say we're better off. I just think that Jalen, you got to kind of, he wasn't part of the original plans, right? And so if you bring a guy like Jalen House into your team, you got to build around him accordingly. And what happened, I didn't do that at all. In fact, Jarkel was our first point guard that we signed, and Jarkel just couldn't come early enough. And I had connections to Jalen's agent, and obviously he's an elite player, obviously. He's a warrior, like the way he plays, though, he cares, man. And once he steps on those lines, he competes at a super high level, which I had a respect for. So I was excited to bring him in. But yeah, I would agree that probably wasn't a perfect fit. He might have even been too good for, the way that we want to play as a team. I mean, again, this is a puzzle, and every piece has got to kind of make sense and fit together in a certain way. And he just really wasn't part of the original plan. And I'm not sure that we had the right kind of guys around him to kind of accommodate his style.
And Kyle, fans are really excited for how this season is going to run down. Obviously, Edmonton's now a game up on you in head-to-head, as is Winnipeg. You have a date with Winnipeg, a rematch coming at the end of July. They're also going to be your last game of the season. You haven't traveled as far as Montreal yet. Montreal is always a really tough building to play in. It's the furthest travel distance. Obviously, as GM, you're talking to the coaches, you're game planning, you're looking at lineups, et cetera, rotations. How does this team start to ascend at the right time? And it's all very tough because you get into those first 2 rounds of the playoffs and it's single game knockout.
Yeah, so I think because of the single game knockout, you just take every day at a time, one at a time, man. one at a time. If you start planning ahead too much in this league, I think it'll hurt you. It's one day at a time. What do we have to do next? What do we have to correct? What do we build on? And I call it the truth, right? So we start our day off with who needs the truth today, right? Is it a coach? Is it me? Is it one of our guys? So we go through that process, and then you do the same strategically, right? What do we need to fix and what do we build on? And the same tactically, what do we fix and what do we build on? And you engineer your day. And we don't build our schedule past a week. I don't know about the other teams, but I do 1 week at a time, and that's it. And we break the game down into five periods because of target time, and you can lose all four but win that last one and win the game, right? And that's the same thing with the playoffs. You can't go in too high or too low. I think the last couple of years we were number one. We were offensively the best, defensively the best, and didn't have great games in that single elimination game, right? So who cares, right? As long as you're at the right frame of mind and you got eight or nine guys that you want to go to war with on that roster for those elimination games, that's all you need.
If you're just joining us, Bandits with a win over the Saskatoon Mamba tonight in Saskatoon, 92-85. Tevin Brown with 28 points. Jarkel and Tyrese, 14 apiece. When you digest all of this tonight and you have your phone calls with, some of the coaching staff, whether that be tonight or tomorrow, what's the first thing you're going to point out? What's the first thing you're going to say you liked and you didn't like?
Oh, there's lots, man. I don't want to get too specific, and give stuff away. But I really liked what I saw out of John. You got to give the kid a ton of credit, man. Like a ton of credit. I signed him on basically like a 3-week. I don't want to say trial, but it was basically a 3-week contract at the start, right? Because we had so many guys late, and then a lot of those guys, still got it, May 10th turned into May 20th, turned into June 10th, turned into June 15th, and so on. But you know what? We've had a lot of guys come in to plug holes, fill holes, and they haven't really lasted that long because they were never really part of the big picture. But you got to give John Knight a ton of credit. He was supposed to be here for 3 weeks. Now here we are 15 weeks later, and he's diehard, man. He's John McClain. He's diehard, and he won a game for us tonight. And I think, Andrew, the other day you asked me, like what are my favorite memories? Like this type of thing is what I love coaching for. Is the Kura Yonkic's of the world, who Kura came to us and he couldn't even catch, and then by the end of his second year he's starting in the championship game. Honestly, we have so many of those stories in Vancouver.
Pushing you in the semifinal over on the sideline and shoving you in the chest.
Oh yeah, that's up there. That's up there, man. That's up there, and that was kind of our relationship. And I have that same kind of relationship with a lot of the guys, and that's the stuff that makes me the most proud, and I think is a real reflection of our organization, is a guy like John Knight and winning a game for you today. A couple of years ago, David Mutabazi did the same thing, wasn't even supposed to make the team, wasn't even supposed to be a practice player. Then he starts in a game and helps you win a game or two in 25. He was outstanding at the start. Dom Parolin, same. I mean, we have a lot of these guys, and it's been pretty cool. And John tonight is an example for sure.
Yeah, I just want to let the fans know John's stat line tonight. Team high minutes off the bench. Obviously, the starting unit was a little bit higher, but John, nearly 28 minutes, 4 of 6, hit his 1 free throw as well, 3 offensive boards, 8 rebounds total, 3 assists, 3 steals, only 1 turnover, plus 10. Shamar, secondary unit, 13 points as well, 6 assists, no turnovers for Shamar. And this team has sometimes struggled to have its bench outwork another team's bench, but tonight, they were able to do so. And fast break, you guys were plus 22 in fast break points tonight. So it all really came together. But I love what you say about memories, Kyle, and I kind of want to dive into that a bit. I'm gonna kind of cue you. There's just so many that come to mind. You talk about culture, and culture is something that lasts when you walk out the door. And obviously, you're still figuratively there. You're overseas, but you can feel the Kyle Julius effect in the market. You've named some names, and there's players whose careers are better off because of you bringing them to the Bandits. I think about people who got their first foray into pro ball. I think about Sam Maillet, who's this kid from Dal. He's going to UVic. He's got a mullet. Can he play? You found a way to use him, and his career is better for it. I think about Diego Mafia. Bandits, I think, started 1-4 to start the season, 1-3. You give him his first career start. Double Diego was born in that big win over Calgary. I think about Junior Cadogan and you holding Junior post game, one hand pass to Olu onto the hoop. There's just so many crazy things that come around. And as we go down memory lane, I've already thrown a few out there, but I think what you've touched, and also the Bandits youth camps, the community programming, the Indigenous side of the game, all the different things, the South Asian stuff, obviously Filipino heritage. You've always been at these different events, BC provincials, you're handing out scholarships. So from the players to the grassroots, there's so much that comes to mind. We'll never get to it, but as we kind of flash through it, what comes to your mind?
You know, when I got my Division I scholarship, you know, I really had my eyes open to basketball at a certain level, right? Growing up in Northern Ontario in a hockey town, Thunder Bay, you know, and getting a scholarship. And I remember our first road game. So I went to Furman University in South Carolina, and I played for one of the most intense people in the world, a guy that made me look like an angel. You know, his name's Larry Davison.
I don't believe
no,
that.
yeah. Listen, we don't, that is another show in itself. Trust me. And, we're playing our first game on the road, and, you know, we get to the locker room and after the game, and we won the game, and guys were excited. And I remember leaving, and I just remember, you know, all of the coaches just talking about leaving the locker room, you know, better than you found it. No, cleaning up. Right. And, you know, it's just part, you know, when we leave, we all clean up. And I had never, you know, I was always, I wouldn't say taught to not clean up the locker room, but it was never like a point of emphasis. It was just something that really, really stuck with me. And, I remember, when I first started coaching, you know, out of nowhere, telling that to my teams. And I think I can say that about the Bandits in general, about living in Vancouver, about working with the organization for 7 years. I'd like to think that I left it, you know, better than I found it, right? I'd like to think that the players that came to me were better after they left, and the front office, our relationships, the community. I'd like to, you know, to me, what would mean the most is that people say that he left it, you know, better than he found it. And, you know, it's kind of emotional too. It's tough because it was my identity in my life for a lot of years, right? And my boys, my kids, and my wife, we came to, you know, Vancouver, and we don't have family in Vancouver, and, you know, we don't have friends. I didn't have friends. I knew some basketball people just from the basketball world being small, but we came alone. Yeah, we contributed to building the Bandits up to be what I think is for sure the best franchise in the league, you know, and that's just the most powerful thing for me is I got to be a part of that. I got to be a piece of that, and it was hard. It wasn't easy by any means. And now here we are, and you know, there's still, like you said, Andrew, 8 games left and some playoff games, and I want to help this team even more than I ever have. I just can't physically be there, you know, and I'm hoping great things can happen, and we'll make the necessary adjustments to do so. But yeah, the whole thing has been unbelievable. There's way too many great memories to pick just one or a few. I coach because I'm addicted to happy locker rooms. That's my thing. You know, walking in a locker room after a win, a road win, walking into a locker room after a hard practice, and the guys are happy and they're smiling and they care about each other and they care about the group. That's my addiction, and that's why I coach. And I can tell you this, that my time in Vancouver, there's been way more happy locker rooms than sad. And there's definitely been some sad ones and some heartbreakers, but there's been way more happy. And that's what I'll stay with me and resonate, and I'll cherish the most for sure.
That's amazing. I could think of a lot worse addictions, or a lot worse things to be addicted to. So
for sure,
that's really good. Speaking of walking into locker rooms, before we get going, I wanna know where this whole diving into a laundry bin and garbage can, ritual came from, or tradition came from, because after, you know, during your first game, I think it was your first game, that part of the 3-game suspension, I think it was your first game. Rands did a laundry room dive, and it sounded like the whole room erupted. So where did this laundry basket diving thing come from? Because to me, it's very Kyle Julius. Like it fits you.
Yeah, well, I'm a hockey player at heart, right? And when I grew up playing hockey, and actually I'm out here in Hong Kong right now, and it's like 40 degrees, and you walk outside for 5 minutes and you're covered in sweat. And there's a guy from our team in China with me getting my Chinese visa. We have to go back and forth to this office, and a little bit of a walk. And we were talking about weather, and I was telling him I grew up in the snow and I played ice hockey outside. He just could not believe me. He had no idea, what I was talking about. And so, yeah, I mean, and when I played hockey, I loved to fight, and I loved to hit, and I love to, forecheck. And body flying is a cultural term that we try to instill in our guys here. And I lived it, and I played that way: hockey, basketball, football, you name it. And in 2023, we were bad. The team that we had here in Vancouver, we were laying the foundation for what we were trying to do. I had built the team from Taiwan, and again, some bad luck. A few guys couldn't make it, and one of our best guys got hurt early. And I was trying to instill some, toughness and some body flying into this group in particular. And it wasn't sticking. It wasn't resonating. And we had lost 4 in a row, and we were about to play Edmonton at home. And I dove into the laundry bin hard, like right before the game, to kind of fire these guys up and say, hey, we got to be
pre-game. The first one was pre-game.
Yeah, it was pre-game.
Oh, wow.
And I said, hey, and I tried to light them up, man. And hey, we got to start body flying for real. And so I took out the laundry bin. They got super fired up, and we won the game. And then I just kind of saved it for special occasions. And then Mitch started to overdo it, like he overdoes everything. He's tried to get me to dive into one after every game. And it's a special occasion thing. And I was touched when Rands did it after his first win. I loved it, man. I thought that was awesome.
Anything else, Andrew, before we wrap? I just didn't know if you wanted to jump in there with,
No, it's so bittersweet. And I just think about I feel like Bodies Flying needs to be a bumper sticker. I can just see your body flying on the back of people's cars and stuff. And I want to go back and find the Bodies Flying.
There's the one more. There's the one more.
Yeah.
There's the one more. Hey, KJ, thank you for doing this. I hope you're able to, to see your family over the next little while you get things going over there. We really appreciate the time. Thank you for everything you've done with the Bandits organization. I know you'll still, be with us. We'll still feel your presence from afar, but seriously, even all the way down to broadcasters, fans, we all feel your energy. We all feel your support. And so thank you for everything you've done. And I know the fans appreciate it too.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for having me, and thank you for letting me kind of tell the story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Hey, we've got some comments, and we didn't really get to them. Maybe I'll read a couple, and KJ, before we go, you can kind of comment.
Sure.
Andrew Martin said Dominic Parolin, I always say it wrong. Parolin has been very solid. I love his game. Very underrated for a first-time pro. Where would you rank him as a first-time university pro?
He's up there, man. He's really up there. I've taken calls from a lot of European coaches about Dom.
Okay, good.
He does
Good.
He
Nice.
does some things. He does some things at that position at an elite level. His ability to run the floor and seal. It was a 2-point game today. I thought we were kind of slipping a little bit, and Dom comes in there, gets an offensive rebound, gets a block shot, picks up a loose ball. Dom's awesome. I told Dom in front of the whole team a couple weeks ago he's going to get paid a lot of money because he does a lot of the dirty work at a really high level. And as he starts to improve, his confidence in scoring, I think Dom's going to be a big pro for a long time. He's been a super pleasant surprise. He's been amazing.
Yeah, one more before we wrap. One more. This one, I don't know what the I'm not going to be able to pronounce it, but he'll know when I read his comment. And I like it because he says he's a young coach. For young coaches who want to continue climbing, how do you decide when it's time to leave a place that you've invested for so long for an opportunity that could accelerate your career? And this one probably will, right, KJ? It probably will for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you Well, for me, I mean, it's hard to say, right? I was taught two things in coaching by some pretty good coaches and some mentors that I had was one, never chase money. And number two, you got to take jobs where you can win. And that doesn't mean you go to the number one team. That's not what that means at all. What it means is, is there a culture there? Do the ownership or do the athletic director or these people above you, do they genuinely want to win? And do they want to invest in you and your process, to help teams? And there's a lot of places that don't. I've had different job offers where I just knew that I wouldn't, work well with the ownership and so on and so forth. And this particular one in China, first of all, the team is at the one of the lower level teams in the first division in the CBA, and they want to pump some money into it and they want to win. And so they're doing some things differently, and that's a place that I know I can go up from. That's a place I can take that team up a few notches based on studying. The other thing was they wanted to let me bring my culture, bring my system, bring my tactics and strategy. They wanted to give me a lot of autonomy there. So yeah, I think when is it time to leave? When you can look in the mirror and know you've given everything you've got. When you've made people around you better, when people have made you better, then that's how I kind of feel about the Bandits. 7 years with one team is a long time in this business. And when this opportunity for me came up and I knew I could win there, I had a chance to go here, win and get better. I wanted to jump on it, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay, so that was from Lucius. I apologize for not. Yeah. This one's coming from @Dylan Coular. How much can Coach bicep curl?
Right now, not that much, man. I've been too stressed for the last couple of weeks, but on a good day, man, I can push some weight for sure.
Okay, all right. I like this one too. Great, that guy. Of course, he jumped into this. I like this one too. Who would play Kyle Julius in a biography?
Oh man,
Look like Channing Tatum, maybe.
Nah, what's his name? I used to get, before I got real old, real quick, I used to get Jason Statham, the bald head, the warrior, the fighter. So, I'll big myself up a little bit and say, but I think he might be a little too short. I don't know. That's pretty funny.
Hey, of course, now we get into the questions and the views start climbing. So this is pretty cool. Maybe we have to do this again, Savory. What do you think?
Yeah.
This is a ton of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. So if we didn't get to your comment, we'll do it next time, and we appreciate you doing this. Thanks for tuning in. This is obviously people like it. So that's great. And as you can see, it's dark here. What a beautiful sunset, by the way. I wish I could show you that. And I know it's whatever hour it is over there for you, KJ. So
I'm 12:23 p.m. here. I'm in the middle of my day, so we're all good.
Okay. All right, we'll let you go. Thanks, man. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. Big win for the Bandits tonight.
Big win.
Mamba, and then off to Calgary on Thursday. So let's do it all again. Kyle, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.
Are we done? All right, we're done.
Beauty.
There we go.